Amazon Bedrock is a generative AI service that gives you access to leading pre-trained models, including models from Anthropic, Cohere, and Stability AI, and you can access all of these using an API interface. And this means that you don't need to worry about provisioning any infrastructure, training, or running any of the models yourself. So it's basically serverless AI, which really is a game changer. Let me show you the quickest and easiest way to add generative AI capabilities to your application code. Now, first of all, in the AWS console, make sure you've enabled access to the models in Bedrock. So I'll search for Bedrock. Using the left-hand menu, select Model Access, and just make sure that all of these are selected and showing as access granted. And this will allow you to invoke any of the models that you have access granted to. And don't worry about this one that's showing as unavailable, it's just in preview at the moment. Next, we'll create a Lambda function. We'll author from scratch, call the function myBedrockDemo. The runtime is going to be the latest Python version that's available. Scroll down to the bottom and create function. After the function is created, we need to update its execution role, and this is going to allow the function to access and invoke the Bedrock service. We'll find the role by scrolling down to Configuration, and then select Permissions. Here's our role, so select the role, then select Add Permissions, create inline policy. We're going to search for the Bedrock service and select it. Under Actions, we only need to add Invoke Model, so select Invoke Model. Under Resources, I'm going to select All. Scroll down to the bottom and hit Next. We'll give our policy a name and create policy. And then back in Lambda, I'm going to select General Configuration, then select Edit, scroll down until you get to Timeout, and by default you get an execution timeout of only 3 seconds. And that's probably not going to be enough time to interact with Bedrock and receive a response. So I'm going to change that to 20 seconds, and I think that will be plenty of time. After that, we can just hit save. Next, I want to make sure that this function uses the latest version of the Boto 3 library, because Boto 3 is the AWS SDK for Python that is used to interact with the Bedrock service. Now, by default, the Python runtime provided in Lambda is not going to have the latest version of Boto 3, so we will need to provide the latest version, and that's exactly what we're going to do next. And we've got a few commands that we're going to run in the Cloud Shell to set up our Lambda layer. Now, I've already prepared these commands for you, so you just need to copy and paste them into the Cloud Shell. If you head to the GitHub repository using the provided link, select the serverless GenAI demo folder, and select commands.txt. So these are just the commands that are going to create and add our Lambda layer. And the first couple of commands just set up a directory. So I'm going to copy that first command, paste it into my Cloud Shell terminal and hit enter. Come to my second command, and this is just making the directory. The third command is just going to install the latest version of Boto 3 in our directory on our Cloud Shell. So that's installed Boto 3. I'm going to clear my screen. The next command just changes directory to the directory where everything's been installed, and we're creating a zip file. So when we provide a layer to Lambda, it's provided as a zip file. The next command is going to publish our layer, and it's specifying our zip file. I'll hit enter and keep hitting enter until you get to end. Then type the letter Q to get your command prompt back. And there is the ARN of our layer, and we're going to use that in our final command. So this is our final command. It's going to update our function configuration. Here's the name of our function, and we're going to add the layer and specify the ARN, including the version number as well. So just copy this command up to layers, paste it into the Cloud Shell, and then finally we need to add this ARN along with the version number. So copy the ARN from up here, paste it in there, and hit enter. And I'm going to continue hitting enter until we get to the end of the output, and then hit the letter Q. So that is our function updated. I'm going to close down the Cloud Shell because we don't need it anymore. I'll refresh my browser on the function overview. And then after you've done that, in the function overview, you should see that the layer has appeared. So now that our function is ready, let's add my Python code to it. So if you scroll down to this section and select code, select your Lambda function in this tab, we'll delete the sample code. Then back in my GitHub repository, this is where you'll find the Python code for our function. So I'll select the code, select copy raw file using this button, then back in the Lambda code view, paste everything in here. So here is my code, and it's just a very simple function that passes a prompt to a model endpoint in Bedrock and receives the response. First of all, it's importing Boto3, which it gets from the Lambda layer. Next, it's defining this command, which uses the Boto3 client to start the Bedrock runtime. Down here is my prompt, and if you want to, you can change the detail of this prompt. This section of the code down here just formats the body before passing it to the model, so we're formatting it in a way that the model is going to understand. And we're using JSON to do that. In this section, we are defining the model, so this is the part of the code where I'm specifying which model to use. Accept relates to the acceptable format of the response, which is JSON, and then content type refers to the input type, which is also JSON. So this application is passing the request to Bedrock in JSON format and receiving the response in JSON format. Then down here, it's invoking the model using the Boto3 client. It provides the prompt, which is the body, as well as the other parameters that we provided. And then after that, it's going to print the response. So that is our function. And the next thing that we need to do is deploy this new code. So scrolling up, select deploy, then select test, configure test event. We'll give our test event a name of TE1 and hit save, and then select test. And you might need to wait a few moments for it to return the result, but just be patient and you should get a result. And there we go. So our Lambda function is successfully invoking Bedrock, it's providing the prompt and returning the response, and here is our response. So Lambda is making an API call to Bedrock, it's passing in the prompt and returning the result. Quick, easy, and completely serverless.